Hello everybody and welcome into the Grindstone Developments Truck Series, live tonight from the famous Rock, also known as Rockingham Speedway, a track that the trucks got to return to in real life last weekend, and now we get to see the boys go at it on track here tonight. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. Well, qualifying is complete, and this track, one of the more interesting ones on the circuit, at least for the scheduled races that we have this season. So with that, let's get right down trackside and get into tonight's starting grid. And as we again work to pull up your starting grid here tonight, work with me for just a moment. We had some issues last week and have got things sorted out since then, and it will be last week's winner, the 99 of Bryce Rayner, taking the pole here tonight. Puts down a good lap for himself at a 23.845. James Harris is going to start on the outside in second here tonight, with Toby Ritters back in third. It'll be Nathan Meyer, the multi-time winner this season. He'll start back in fourth in that 24 truck. Kevin Kirchar in the 91. He got a race won last season. He'll start from fifth here tonight. Jamison Correa back in sixth. Andrew Hale rolls off seventh, with Jason Taylor back in eighth. Jason Nethery in ninth, and Randy Richard rounding out your top 10. Starting back on the inside of row number 6 is going to be George Young, with Mike Hill to his outside in 12th. William Mann Jr. starts in 13th. Ignore my name. I'll tell you why that's there in a minute. So it'll be Caleb Forsyth who actually starts in 14th. Wesley Carter in 16th. In 15th. He will round out the field here tonight. All right, now briefly looking at your race info before we go green. It is the Rockingham 95, indicating that we will go 95 laps here tonight. Rockingham just under a mile in total length, but again, banking in the corners in a very bumpy racetrack at that. As always, we're in the trucks here, open setups. We do have 100% fuel on board, 4 sets of tires. That includes the one that you start with, and that one fast repair if you were to need it. Weather outside in the sim, looking pretty good overall, 79 degrees. Track temp, though, a little bit on the warmer side at 110. It'll be interesting to see if that plays a factor in the racing here tonight. Well, last week it was the short track of Bristol. Chaotic race there. We'll see what we get here tonight at Rockingham. Green flag is in the air, and we are underway in the Rockingham 95. Great restart out of the gate for Bryce Rayner in the 99. He quickly pulls to the point as they work through turn 1 and 2, and already trouble out back here. Forgot exactly who's involved in this. I'd be amazed if this doesn't draw a caution, as Kevin Kirchar is going to pay the tow bill and immediately take it to the pits. Jamison Correa trying to get his truck back rolling in the right direction. Jason Taylor also appears to have been involved. We'll go back and get a look at that incident here in just a second. Meanwhile, up front, still 1 and 2 is Rayner and James Harris, as you saw just how much distance Harris was able to close right there on Rayner as they got into the corner. But then Rayner seems to be able to get a little bit of a better exit. So the field has quickly gotten sorted out here. You kind of expected it to go that way. You wouldn't see too much 2x2 racing at a track like this, at least not in the first restart of the night. But here we go. Does somebody make a mistake, miss a shift, or is there some contact that leads to this? Watch on the inside. You see Kevin Kirchar in the 91. Oh, he spins the tires. Oh, man, that is a mistake. Kirchar just spins the rear tires, and as he does, gets that truck loose, shoots him up into the 81 of Correa, who had nowhere to go, and then Nethery gets into the 81 of Correa, sends him around, and then ultimately sends the 15 around in that process as well. So a tough break for 3 of your contenders here early tonight, and again, Kirchar had to take it to the pits, so you wonder if his damage is maybe a little bit more on the extensive side of things. Here's what it looked like from his onboard view. Listen to the rev limiter. Yeah, just getting some tire spin. You know, at most tracks we go to, that's not usually an issue, especially not on the start of the race when you're on fresh tires. But here tonight, that could certainly be something of concern and something to watch out for, as unfortunately, again, has collected 3 trucks early. One more view of this, and then I promise we'll go back live. I just want to show you one more time what it looked like here from a different angle. Watch the 91. It gets going, and then right here, your tires start to spin, and down she goes. All right, so as we turn our attention back live now, James Harris has taken the lead. Toby Clifford second. Rayner already fallen back to third, but you wonder if this is kind of in his bag of tricks right now, just maybe working on saving a little bit of tire, not trying to get too aggressive yet as we ride on the roll bar view for Rayner. And again, I mean, just from this view alone, notice how bumpy the track is. And we'll pull up the track map there on the left side of your screen. You can see the field's already separated by almost half a track length, and we're only 7 laps in to this 95 lap ordeal, so a long ways to go. And already some early struggles for a few drivers that were involved in that, well, not a caution, but that first incident. And now a few drivers that are just struggling with grip. I know it is early on in the going. So that's what the onboard view looks like. How about the speeds that these guys reach here as James Harris, the end of the front straightaway, up to just about 161 miles an hour before they dive off into the corner. And Toby Ritter's now showing great pace as he's moved his way up into second. Actually did that pretty quickly. And now he's trying to take the lead away, and he's going to have to do it the long way around. He'll jump to the high side here as they work through turns 3 and 4. Can Ritters get him clear down the front stretch? It is a little bit of a tri-oval setup here, and he does. So Toby Ritters gets clear, takes the point, and he will now look to see if he can try to scoot away with just 9 of 95 laps in the books. Now, by the way, 100% fuel in these trucks at this track, I think is pretty close on whether or not they can make it all the way. I almost want to say there might be a pit stop that's still going to be sprinkled in, but it'll definitely be something that's interesting to keep note of. And again, that is to see if these guys can make it without having to pit for fuel or not. And obviously, tires could be a major issue as well. This track is going to wear them out like a cheese grater with how bumpy it is. You know, it's open setup, so I know everybody designs things differently, but I'm very curious to see if we have guys that get a little bit loose as the run goes on, or if they seem to get a little bit tighter as the run goes on. So, by the way, Kirchhoff and Wesley Carter currently being scored out of this race. I'm not sure what the issue was for Wesley Carter, but Kirchhoff, we obviously saw involved in that first incident. Michael Hill currently being scored 2 laps down already. Again, not sure if somehow he was involved in this issue. I got to assume he wasn't. We just didn't see it initially. So we'll go back and look at that replay one more time. This is Michael Hill in the back on the outside, sees the checkup, gets on the brakes. It seems okay. A little bit of contact there on the right front, but definitely didn't seem like something that would result in that much damage. But Michael Hill, again, he is falling 2 laps down here in the early going. And by the way, Michael Hill is one of our onboard views here tonight, driving that number 27 machine. We'll go back and actually see. There he is. Mike Hill in that 13th position. Trying to run smooth here just to click off some laps. But again, down the spot where he started this race at. And more importantly, that 2-lap down stat is going to be really, really tough to overcome. Meanwhile, back at the front, the man we've been talking about quite a bit already tonight, James Harris. You almost feel like it's just a matter of time here. He's due for a win this season. He got the job done last season. And it's just going to be at which track does he find victory for the first time. And you know, for not only him, but everybody else in the field that either feels like they can win this season or feels like they can stay pretty high up in points this season, is going to try to rack together as many good finishes as quick as possible, because they know that once Bryce Rayner, or a guy like Bryce Rayner, gets hot, he's going to be a really tough one to beat in terms of that championship trophy and championship points. And speaking of Rayner, he has now made his way back up within half a second of your 2 leaders. And so that answers that question earlier in regards to, you wondered why he got past. Well, the answer is he was deciding to save tire. Back down the pace, save some tire, and now here he is chasing down the front 2. Nathan Meyer back in 4th. And you've got Andrew Hale up a couple of spots. He seems to have a knack for tracks that are a mile and under. Again, sitting in that 5th position right now. Jason Ethery in 6th with William Mann Jr. in 7th. And then you've got Randy Richard in 8th, Caleb Forsyth in 9th, and George Young currently rounding out your top 10. Jason Taylor currently sitting in that 11th spot. And then going back to 12th, Jamison Correa is currently the first truck, actually second truck being scored multiple laps down. Jason Taylor is only a lap down. So as it currently stands, he is in that lucky dog position. Now here's the battle that's heating up. All of a sudden, Toby Ritter's got a little bit more breathing room, and James Harris and the 99 of Rayner right on his back bumper. They have since separated here just a little bit. But as we get, you know, to probably around the halfway point in this race, again, obviously a lot that's going to change, especially as these tires start to wear out, the fuel load starts to die off. But these front 4 are surprisingly close, I would say, for a track like this where, you know, draft doesn't play a major factor here. You more so kind of expect this track to favor the guys who are better with tire saving, which I think it still will. But Bryce Rayner has not been able to get by these 2 leaders yet, even after we have now completed almost 20 laps in this race. By the way, if you're just tuning in or you've been tuning in since the start, we appreciate you being here watching the Rockingham 95, the Grindstone Developments Truck Series on PGR eSports. And by the way, last week I know we had a different overlay. Again, apologize for that. We got things reset up for these guys this week. Excited to be back to normal. The other thing I wanted to note is you might notice a green down there on the scoring tower in 16th. That is me. I am not in the race, obviously. I'm up here broadcasting. I don't know if it was something to do with the new iRacing update or what the deal is, but I could not find any area in the session to spectate as you normally can. The only option was to register as a driver. So again, that is why you see that name on the scoring tower. You probably haven't seen it before. Again, I am not actually in the race. All right, so Toby Ritters continues to lead. The 55 of Harris continues to run second. Interesting, too, they're both running that middle line at the moment. In fact, let's hop on board here with Toby Ritters for a lap around Rockingham. Again, that front straightaway kind of resembles what you would see at like a Nashville Super Speedway. Then as you get into the corner, notice how bumpy it is. Very, very old racetrack. And as you get back onto the straightaway and into turn 3, does he run a different line than he doesn't want it to? Yes, he does. So goes to the bottom, kind of runs a diamond, if you will, where the apex of the corner is almost inverted, gets to the, dives in low, peaks up top, and then arcs it back down to the inside. And then through 1 and 2, looks like he tries to run relatively the same line. So you can already see just how tight that truck's getting. Has that wheel almost over 45 degrees to the left. And those front tires are certainly scrubbing. James Harris going to try this again. Now, this one is one of those tracks where it's a little bit too fast to necessarily try to bump and run a guy, but, I mean, if you're James Harris, at what point do you try to find a way around Toby Ritters here? It seems like he's a little bit faster, but passing him seems to be a whole nother challenge right now. Not going to get it. Maybe he's going to try to look for the left rear. Can he do it? There you go. James Harris to the inside here of Toby Ritters. And he'll pull the slide off to a T. Here comes the 99 of Rayner. He's going to follow through. It'll be a 2-truck pass on the 3 of Ritters, who has to be wondering what just went wrong. And that set of corners as he falls from 1st to 3rd. Rayner blinking around just a little bit, but now is going to try to apply the pressure here to James Harris. Well, he still has a bunch of forward momentum. I think if you're Harris here, you just try to hold him off as long as you can. Maybe not the expectation that you're going to hold him off here this entire tire run. But the longer you hold him off, the less distance he's going to create between himself and you by the time we get to that first green flag pit stop. Obviously, assuming we get there. And don't forget, the only incident we had tonight was on the first lap, right on the initial start. Didn't bring out the caution, though. So we have stayed green. And since then, things have gotten so spread out that there hasn't been other areas to worry about, at least in regards to a caution. Now, looking at the track map, I think lap traffic will be a factor at some point in this race, especially if we stay green for a while. But it hasn't been an issue, at least not yet. Nathan Meyer trying to track down Toby Ritters. Jason Nethery, a little bit of side-by-side back here as Nethery in the 15, who, by the way, it looks like Nethery is in the 34. I apologize for that. I was looking at the 15 to Taylor, who's a lap down, but I was going to say, looks like Nethery here going to lose that spot to Andrew Hale, working the inside. Nethery was working the top. William Mann Jr. back here racing with Randy Richard. And then Caleb Forsyth, George Young. Got themselves some separation. Jason Taylor in the middle of the pack, but he is a lap truck. So right now, not, again, necessarily racing for position. Here is a race for position, though. Up front, might have a change of the lead in store here. Over the next lap, the 99 of Bryce Rayner looking to the inside of James Harris. Trying to make it work. The 99's got some momentum. He's got to stay even here. Down the back straightaway. He'll do just that. Will Rayner try the slide job? The same move that the 55 tried on the 3 and made work? Not yet. Looks like for now, Rayner's content with trying to stay even. Not making a move on him at the moment. And Harris is actually going to almost pull back clear. And he will pull clear by the time they get to turn 1. So the outside seems to be working right now relatively well. But just as I say that, I don't know if Harris decided to give him the spot or just got tight in the center of the corner, but Rayner goes right on around. And we have another new leader here tonight at the Rock as he crosses the line. This time, though, it'll be 30 of 95 laps complete already. Just about a third of the way through this 95 lap event. We are going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll stay side by side so you don't miss a thing. Stick with us here at Rockingham.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing. Three by three. Almost all trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to Rockingham Speedway, Grindstone Developments Truck Series. In the Rockingham 95 here tonight, and so far so good through 36 laps last 2 weeks. Tracks that are a mile or less in length, and the racing has been outstanding as these guys continue to work their way through the regular season. And I say regular season, but again, the schedule, at least the setup of it for these guys, is a cumulative championship, so we don't have a playoffs or anything of that nature. It's just straight up who can have the most points at the end of the season. That will be your champion. So if you're curious about where these guys head next week, it'll be off to Dover, another track that is a mile or less in total length, before we finally head back to a couple of bigger tracks in Texas Motor Speedway to open up May, followed by Kansas on May 13th. And then it's back to the short tracks, North Wilkesboro on May 20th, followed by Charlotte. That'll be a big mile-and-a-half race for these guys. Nashville Super Speedway will be the 11th race of the season, and the season finale going to be back at Michigan, a 2-mile oval, so that's going to be a good one. All right, back on track right now. James Harris still trying to chase down your leader, Bryce Rayner. The gap between those two, about 0.3 of a second, couple truck lengths worth. Nathan Meyer has moved up to third. You've got Toby Ritters back and fourth, Andrew Hale fifth, Randy Richards sixth, William Mann Jr. seventh, with Caleb Forsyth in eighth. George Young is in ninth, and it's Jason Nethery currently rounding out your top 10. So we're getting close to that halfway point. No signs of pitting yet. Now, obviously, at this halfway point, in fact, even right now, if these guys were to pit, I could guarantee you they'd be good to go on fuel the rest of the way. Now, if they have enough fuel to make it the entirety of the 95 laps, that'll be my big question. Because, again, we've ran 40 green ones so far. That leaves us 55 to go as he crosses the line this time. So it'll be very interesting to see if the fuel stretch can make it that far. Or if, again, we'll see at least one green flag stop here before this race is all said and done. Well, no real battles through your top 6. Then as you get to 7th, William Mann Jr. and Caleb Forsyth going at it for that 7th spot. Forsyth trying to look to the inside. Now he's going to actually go right back to the outside. I'll tell you what, William Mann Jr., rough week last week at Bristol initially. So he's just looking for more of a consistent run here tonight. And so far, the driver out of the Kannapolis has done just that so far. And right now, he's got himself up 6 positions from where he started this race at. But Forsyth, again, hot on his tail at the moment. See if William Mann can try to stretch this gap out a little bit. And George Young, just behind these two in the 48 truck, maybe skim the outside wall right there just briefly. But kind of in the same boat where he's had a great run so far tonight. Some of these guys really need it. I mean, we talk about the points championship, but even as a driver, just to finish on the podium in terms of the end of season point standings is a win. Now, right now, as your points run, the top three are Nathan Meyer, Randy Richard, and Jamison Correa. So those three in a great spot, but I mean, you look at the races that each one of them are having tonight. Randy Richard in 6th, he's got a solid run going. Jamison Correa, though, complete opposite end of the spectrum. He's back in 12th, 2 laps down. And at this rate, I mean, it's looking like he's going to probably be stuck back there. We need a couple cautions here soon for him to have any chance of getting both of those laps back, or excuse me, yeah, both of those laps back. So he's going to fall in points. And then Nathan Meyer currently sits in 3rd. And he leads in points, so that's going to, again, help his status out. Now, you've got Bryce Rayner in 5th, who is your race leader. So if he wins tonight, that would, again, be his 2nd win of the season. That would tie him for the most wins on the season as of right now with Nathan Meyer, if he gets the job done here tonight. But, you know, I know you're probably wondering, why is this guy talking about all these stats? Who cares? We're only 45 laps into a race. What does it matter? Well, it matters because at the end of the season, it's not going to come down to, again, the last couple races like it does in real life with the whole championship playoff race format. You got to be consistent each and every week, whether it's a track you're good at or not, whether it's a track you like or don't. If you want to be crowned a champion here, the Grindstone Developments Truck Series. Back up front, Bryce Rayner now really starting to put the pressure on in terms of stretching the gap here from the 55 of James Harris. Now has it up to over 2 seconds. Nathan Meyer currently 3rd. You've got Andrew Hale in 4th, and Toby Ritters right now rounding out your top 5. Randy Richards 6th. William Mann Jr. back in 7th. George Young 8th. Jason Taylor 9th. And Jason Nethery currently rounding out the top 10. And only 8 trucks on the lead lap is probably the part of that that's arguably a little bit more concerning. Now, pit stop wise, that's the other thing that we're still keeping an eye on. And the reason I say that now is because I thought maybe we had a few drivers going to pit here, and it looks like we do. But it's going to be Jason Taylor, one of the trucks who was not on the lead lap, bringing it down here for his service. And I don't know if this is necessarily going to spark off the pit stop frenzy, but 15 of Taylor here. Going to get, I would assume, 4 fresh tires and fill it up with fuel as you see the right side go up. Next we should see the left. So that is Taylor, again, the only truck at the moment to make a pit stop. Well, now that I say that, looks like Michael Hill has also decided to make his first pit stop of the night. And 27 in the pits now. He was also multiple laps down, but up front, Bryce Rayner continues to dominate here. We're getting ready to cross 50 laps complete here at the Rock tonight. The 99 of Rayner, brief contact right there with the outside wall. Shows you just how much he's pushing that truck, even out in front. When you start to get into a rhythm, it's hard to just back off the pace and be conservative. You want to go for it as much as you can each and every lap. Now, track temp did come down just a smidge here, 109, as it was 110 earlier, but still on the warmer side, and obviously still at a point in this race where grip's going to start to go away late in this tire run, but nobody seems to have any major handling issues as of yet. Knock on wood, of course, but I want to hop back on board here with Bryce Rayner. Just see how bumpy things are looking again from his point of view, and more importantly, how the handling of that truck starts to look. As it looks like maybe the back end's starting to loosen up a little bit now. Rayner obviously likes it that way. Just something to note is you start to get a little bit loose in the back end, you really start shedding that right rear tire off in a hurry. So you just got to keep that in mind. You don't want to overuse it. Potentially get yourself, again, in a bad spot and start falling back here before this potential green flag pit stop. Is now Adam Young, George Young rather, has decided to make his pit stop. So this is getting more encouraging now. I know some of these guys weren't on the lead lap. George Young was. So to see him pit tells me that we're probably going to see at least one green flag pit stop now from just about everybody else at some point. And Jason Nethery, now the first truck being scored a lap down. He'll take that spot, that ace spot rather, from George Young, and that leaves only 6 trucks now on the lead lap here with 53 of 95 laps complete. Bryce Rayner, 5.3 seconds now is the gap between himself and James Harris, who continues to again sit second. Andrew Hale in third. Nathan Meyer still fourth. Toby Ritters, well, was running at your top 5, but Randy Richard has just completed a pass, and ooh, he actually got a little bit tight right there coming off the corner, almost climbed up and into that outside wall. Good job holding on to that truck by Randy Richard, who continues to improve his track position. He is now up 5 spots from where he started this race at. And again, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here, watching the Grindstone Developments Truck Series at the Rock here tonight. And well, I wish we had more battles to show you, but it's really all we got right now. Kind of the nature of the beast here at a track like this. You look at the track map, there's quite a bit of spread there. Those 2 trucks you see together here out front are not for position. Bryce Rayner is your leader, but Jamison Correa right now is out on the lead lap. In fact, he's being scored 3 laps down. That might put him back to 2. So he's just logging laps, as is Bryce Rayner, but Andrew Hale still out on the racetrack because guess who has now made their pit stop? James Harris, first one of your leaders to bring it in for service here tonight. So let's see what he takes. I would assume 4 in tires, or excuse me, 4 in fuel. And it looks like he's going to do just that. All right. So he'll get his Chevy Silverado all serviced up, drops the jack, and out of the pit box he goes. Now we'll have to see who and in what order this draws in everybody else. Andrew Hale pitched just a lap later in that number 4 truck. And will this draw Bryce Rayner down, who, by the way, has, over a 9-second lead. So obviously no rush right now for Rayner to bring it in, but certainly don't want to lose the track position when you come out, although he would have the freshest tires to play offense with the rest of the way if he decides to stay on this strategy and pick the latest of them all. As Andrew Hale makes his way back out of the pits. Looked like Jason Nethery did as well. So we're down to just 4 trucks left on the lead lap. If we got a caution right now, that would be devastating potentially for some of these guys that are a lap, 2 laps down, because they may not get it if one of these trucks on the lead lap decides to stay out and try to throw a wrench in that strategy. For Bryce Rayner here, still 58 of 95 laps in the books, and he has led the most of them so far. As he works down the backstretch, you see they're labeled as Thunder Alley, Rockingham. What a cool track, too. To see these guys get to have it back on the schedule this season is definitely something to be excited about. Again, NASCAR making the real-life return here this past weekend in the Trucks and Xfinity Series, and these guys getting the opportunity to run it in the sim. So as we cross 61 of 95 laps now in the books, it is still a one-man show up front. Pit stop now from the 24 of Nathan Meyer. So he's decided enough staying out. The driver out of Carlsbad, I would assume should take 4 tires and fuel. He's already got 2 wins on the season, so not too concerned about necessarily winning here tonight. I mean, he'd probably like to, but more so he's just trying to make sure he has a consistently good run through the rest of the season. That should basically be all he needs. That is one of the Team Watson Racing drivers. Bryce Rayner, one of your Team Conti Racing drivers, as he now makes his way up to his pit box. Randy Richard and Toby Ritter's going to match the 99 on strategy. So this is, again, officially the only green flag pit stop that we are going to see of the night. Now, if we get a caution at some point, that could change some things up on if guys decide they want to go in and try to take tires or potentially stay out. But under green flag conditions, again, this will be the only pit stop that we see here tonight. So Rayner leaves his pit box. Out of the pits he goes, and it was close. Almost jumped up above that blue line, indicating where you have to exit a little too soon. That could have been bad. That's now Jason Nethery being scored as your race leader in the 34, and it has him about 4.4 seconds ahead of Bryce Rayner. And James Harris was not able to jump him via the pit strategy, and with Rayner having fresher tires, what you're getting ready to see is this gap's going to extend, and it's going to extend pretty big time here. Notice, though, the last few laps here for Bryce Rayner, 25.7s-ish. Let's see what he runs this lap. This will be his first lap on fresh tires. So Nethery had been about 1 to 3/10 of a second better for most of those laps. But again, let's see here what Rayner runs on his newest lap. Those fresh tires, 24.4. So over a second faster on fresh tires for Bryce Rayner right now compared to Jason Nethery. That helps kind of show you the difference between new and old tires here and the difference that they make. The 99, though, Bryce Rayner going to jump to the top. He'll cross the line and officially see 32 laps remaining here at the Rock. The 4 of Andrew Hale right now back in that 4th spot. Trying to figure out if he had a little bit of left rear damage or if that was just the way the paint looked on that specific camera angle. Back end looks clean, so it must have just been the angle of the sunlight bouncing off the bed of that truck. Caleb Forsyth still in that 5th spot. He's up 10 positions now from where he started this race at. William Mann Jr. still in 6th. Nathan Meyer, though, I wonder if it was a pit stop issue or just because he came in later. And maybe he'll get this track position back, but has fallen to 7th. Randy Richard has fallen to 8th. Toby Ritter's in at 9th. So I think these guys are just falling back out of the natural cycling of pit stops. I think they'll make up all those positions before this race is all said and done. And now, as things have cycled out, it is Toby Ritter's about 20 seconds behind your leader, being scored as the last truck on the lead lap. So again, keep an eye on that as we got a battle for the lead here. Bryce Rayner and James Harris. I'll take that back. I thought that our scoring tower showed them switching just briefly, but it did not. So Rayner actually continues to lead here and is scooting away from the 55 of James Harris. And he will be closing in on just 25 laps to go here in a few laps. So as Bryce Rayner continues to lead, Jason Ethery, James Harris continue to chase. Will either of them have enough? We're going to find out when we get back. Stick with us as we go side by side at Rockingham.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive. Especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by three.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. Hard into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to Rockingham Speedway as we are slowly but surely closing in on the end of the Rockingham 95. You notice the 3 driver cams there in the bottom of your screen. The man on the bottom of that trio of cameras is your current leader, Bryce Rayner. And then back in second, James Harris on the top left there for your cameras. And then back all the way in the 13th spot right now is Mike Hill, who you see there on the top right. All right, so 21 laps to go. It'll be 20 when Bryce Rayner crosses the line next time. So we're getting into that final stretch. Obviously, everybody has now completed their one and only green flag pit stop. 9 trucks remaining on the lead lap at the moment. And for Rayner, with about a 4.5-second lead, the only thing that could stop him now is either himself or caution, as nobody else even in the ballpark when it comes to the speed that 99 truck has had so far here tonight. Saved tire early, and it was really close between him, James Harris, and Toby Ritters for probably about, I'd say, the first 20, 25 laps even, maybe even 30 between him and James Harris. But then all of a sudden, he found it, and once he did, it has been lights out since then. There's the gearbox view, nobody in sight. The nose camera sees a little bit of lap traffic, but not too much to deal with. And speaking of lap traffic, it looks like for Rayner, if he continues at the pace he's going, it'll be close one if he catches that giant wave of lap traffic that you see currently working into turn number 1 on the track map. And obviously lap traffic, one of the things that gets you nervous as a leader in terms of what could potentially stop you or cost you that lead, but I think Rayner having almost a 5-second gap is plenty enough for him to try to navigate through said lap traffic. And we mentioned the schedule and where these guys head over the next couple weeks. And again, next week itself, I believe, is Dover. I'll double check on that again. I know we mentioned it earlier, but I want to make sure I didn't get that mixed up with anybody else. And yep, sure enough, next week it's off to Dover Motor Speedway. Miles the Monster, as it is also known as. And after we wrap that up, I think we'll really have a better idea of who's going to be your solid top 3, top 4, even top 5 championship contenders for the rest of the season as we inch closer to that halfway point. So if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you watching, and if you've been sticking around, we appreciate you being here. Hope that everybody is having a good Tuesday night, Tuesday evening, depending on which part of the country you are in. It'll be 15 laps remaining for Bryce Rayner when he crosses the line next time. James Harris has that gap. I was going to say he trimmed it down a couple tenths, but instead it's actually been extended a few tenths now. As Harris does almost officially have it up to 5 seconds. The next closest after that is Andrew Hale, who currently sits back in that 3rd spot, so a lot of ways to go for the Ford truck if he wants to get anywhere closer than that 3rd spot. Jason Nethery about 5 seconds behind 3rd place Andrew Hale, and that separation continues for the most part until you get right around Nathan Meyer and Randy Richard battle for that 5th spot. Richard trying to apply some pressure here to the back bumper of the 24, but again, Nathan Meyer having some fresher tires. Well, although does he? In fact, those 3 might have pit around the same time. You just saw the 34 right there of Jason Nethery actually got up into the outside wall, so that slowed him down and allowed those 2 trucks to sneak by on the inside. 14 laps remaining here at Rockingham. This is the battle we're going to stay focused on, though, for the next few, as can the 53 of Randy Richard finds something here to try to get around Nathan Meyer. Obviously, it only takes 1 slip up, but you got to find a way as the driver running in his wake to make him slip up, put the pressure on, get him looking in his mirror more than he's looking out the windshield. That is, again, the driver out of Osceola. And a good run so far here tonight, and Randy Richard needs it. Man, if he could get that spot over Nathan Meyer, that would help, because obviously he's trying to catch Nathan Meyer in that points battle. So finishing better than him is certainly one way to do it. Just 12 laps to go, though, now. Winding down on the end of this thing. 6.4 seconds now the gap between Bryce Rayner and James Harris. This is where you almost start to get eerie if you're Bryce Rayner, of a caution trying to come out somewhere, as Mike Hill and Jamison Correa battling a little bit right there for that 13th spot. George Young on an island by himself, and then Caleb Forsyth trying to see if he can track down Jason Nethery, but he's got quite a ways to go, about 5 seconds. And Toby Ritter's still 6th. There's Randy Richard 5th, chasing after Nathan Meyer in 4th. Then you've got Andrew Hale currently sitting in that final podium position in 3rd. James Harris 2nd. Bryce Rayner is still your race leader. All right, well, slowly approaching the end now. Really getting close to the end, I should say. I keep saying slowly, but, I mean, really, this race has gone by pretty quick. Figure we dropped the green flag between 8:55 and 9, and oh, trouble here. Michael Hill went off into the grass. No caution. And we'll see if it stays like that. You know, that had to make Bryce Rayner's heart skip a beat. There's his onboard view, and then there's Mike Hill. The truck that we just saw going to the grass, that could have potentially been that dreaded caution that Bryce Rayner does not want to see right now. As here's another view of it. And in fact, we went back too far. All right, here we go. What happened here to the 27? He's coming off the corner in front of Nathan Meyer, and ooh, might have had some contact there. Meyer said, I got to go, and 27 maybe trying to keep it low. It's just kind of an awkward spot. Wrong place, wrong time for the 27 here is... Yeah, I think that maybe the 24 Meyer just thought he was going to stay low, and obviously a very bumpy track. I think Mike Hill just kind of naturally washes up a little bit right here off the corner. Does he get a little loose and bump the apron? Let's see. He's trying to arc it down. In fact, we'll go to his cockpit view instead. I think this will be a little bit of a better telltale sign is, here you go. He maybe gets a little bit loose. Yeah, it's certainly kind of what it looks like right here. You saw the back end start to go around just briefly before he got hit by the 24 of Meyer. Watch it again in slow-mo. So you see the 27? Right there, he starts to get loose. And then here's the 24 of Nathan Meyer getting into his right rear. Just barely, but enough to still send that 27 down for a slide through the grass and through victory lane right there. Eventually slides to a halt. And again, it is off the racing surface, so it doesn't draw the caution. But tough break for Mike Hill nonetheless. All right, back up front. Bryce Rayner still leading the way now as we hit just a handful of laps remaining here tonight. Obviously, got to get to that white flag to make this race official, so that's the first thing that the 99 Rayner wants to see. Then he'll worry about everything else after that. And Randy Richard and Nathan Meyer are still only separated here by about 0.2 of a second, so these two continue to provide the best battle on the racetrack as of right now. And I think if you're arguably, if you're Nathan Meyer here, you kind of want this spot just as bad as the 53 Randy Richard does, because you know that he's one of the guys that's still top 3 in points, and if you can finish ahead of him, then you know it means you had a better points night than he did. General idea is you're setting yourself up in a better position as you move into next week. All right, just 4 laps remaining now, for Bryce Rayner, your current leader here at Rockingham as he crosses the line. There's the 3 to go marker. As Meeks Motorsports says he turned him. Yeah, it certainly looked like that. Nathan Meyer, the contact to Mike Hill. Don't think it was anything intentional, though. But yeah, you got that right. So as Rayner works his way through 3 and 4, he'll now see 2 laps to go. And the most stressful lap as a driver, because he knows if he can make it just one more lap here without a caution, and this race will be official. We'll show you that track map one more time. Things, for the most part, pretty spread out. Nobody necessarily right on top of each other, except for Nathan Meyer and Randy Richard, who are even starting to get a little bit separated now between themselves. So as Rayner now works his way through 3 and 4, notice he's shifted all the way up to the top. But here we go. White flags in the air. 1 lap to go. The pressure's off now for Rayner as he can now cruise his way home. 12.5 seconds, the gap between him and second place. 6 trucks out of 15 that started remaining on the lead lap. That is what domination looks like, and that is what tonight has looked like for the 99 of Bryce Rayner. Got his first win last week, and he's going to get win number 2 this week. Second win of the season comes at Rockingham for the 99 of Bryce Rayner. What a win and what a performance. James Harris takes second, and it's Andrew Hale rounding out your podium, as Meyer was able to indeed fend off Randy Richard, by the way, for that position. All right, so as Rayner brings it down to celebrate, what a great night it was for him. We'll see if he decides to park it in the virtual victory lane. So we'll give him a minute. But man, that race went flag to flag green. Think about that. I don't know when the last races we had that did something quite like that was. Maybe earlier on in the season, but that is just a phenomenal job. Not only just to do that, but to do that at a track like this, where it is so tough and so easy to make a mistake. Tip of the cap to all these drivers here tonight for everything that they did. And so you see a big smile there for Bryce Rayner as he continues to burn it down. We'll take a look at your finishing results here for the night. Again, your race winner is Bryce Rayner. James Harris takes second. And you've got Andrew Hale finishing third, Nathan Meyer fourth, with Randy Richard finishing fifth. Toby Ritters takes home sixth. It's Jason Ethery back in seventh, with Caleb Forsyth in eighth, William Mann Jr. in ninth, and George Young rounding out your top 10. Jason Taylor finishes 11th. It'll be Jameson Correa finishing back in 12th, Mike Hill 13th, Kevin Kirchar 14th, and Wesley Carter finishing in 15th. All right, we are going to go grab your top 3 for interviews, including your race winners, so stick with us. We'll be right back here at Rockingham. All right, I'm going to start first here tonight with your race winner, the 99 machine of Bryce Rayner. Bryce, this is all set up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Well, you get the win here tonight, second of the season, and back-to-back wins at that. And, this was, I feel like, your kind of race in the sense of it went green all the way, so you really got to show off your speed and strategy. Tell us a little bit about the plan going into this race and how you executed it.
Well, for me personally, I think it was pretty simple. I think just save some tire on the bottom line. That was the key to tonight, I think. I knew we had a fast set coming into tonight, especially going over the officials throughout last week. Knowing what our pace was in qualifying, which set us up pretty well for the start of the race. Just kind of carrying the momentum through the corners, making sure you don't burn that right rear off, and tear the right front up as well, which we did exactly that, and kind of carried our momentum from last week into this week and had a great shot at the victory tonight.
Absolutely. And again, a dominating performance just to back up what you did last week at Bristol. Now, last week, and obviously here tonight, we were at tracks that were a mile in length or less. Next week, we head off to Dover Motor Speedway, which is, again, a short track at just a mile in length. How do you feel about your chances there to make it 3 in a row?
After some races yesterday and the set that we have brought this week, there's no doubt I think we'll be fast. It just depends on how good you save your stuff again. I mean, it's a concrete track. It's Dover. I mean, it's the Monster Mile, so taking care of the tires, just like tonight, passing is going to be very difficult, I think. So you're going to have to manage those runs pretty well. But if it's anything like the SOF races last night or any races this week, I think we have a real good shot at it. I know some of my teammates weren't here tonight, like Kevin, but and Eli, I think, but the other guys did really well tonight, and I think with that incident early on, and that probably changed a little bit of the trajectory of how the race went. But for us, looking forward to Dover, have a real fast piece, and hopefully to do the three-peat.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what, Bryce, to round out 2 great runs and 2 great weeks here tonight, is there anyone that you want to thank or shout out before we let you go?
Yeah, want to thank you, Austin, up in the booth, PGR, Grindstone Development, all the that goes into broadcasting this race and giving it to the fans. Like always, I know it was a short field tonight with that one hectic start, but other than that, it was a great race, all green flag runs. So thank you for broadcasting this, and hope it was a good one. I know it was a little bit longer, but and spread out, but hopefully it was still good. Shout out to all my teammates who ran tonight. I know Randy did pretty good tonight. Just bad luck, same as Jameson too. But next week, I think we'll pull it back together. Thank you to Team Conti Center Performance, all the guys over there for helping us bring fast pieces each and every week, and just helping us with our racecraft throughout the weeks. Digital Sim Sports, Martin PC, my buddy Craig, he's a good one. We'll move on to Dover.
Absolutely. And Bryce, thank you for talking to us. Congrats on the win, second of the season, back to back at that. We'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, Austin. You have a good one.
You as well. All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for your winner here tonight. Let's go ahead and move on to second place finisher, that being the 55 of James Harris. Let's see how he's feeling after his good run tonight. Hey, James, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, you take home second tonight. Another very solid run for you, but man, it seemed like early on you had the speed to contend with the 99 and the 3 truck, and then all of a sudden, it seemed like it fell off. Did you feel like the long run speed wasn't there tonight? What went wrong, you think, as that run went on?
Well, I knew the 3 was running too hard, burning his stuff up. I wasn't too worried about him. But in all the races I've done the past week in iRacing C Open, Connie has just nailed the setup for Rockingham this past week. And I can hang with them for about half of a fuel run, and after that, they're gone. Ours just gets wrecking loose. And I tried to take it easy early. I wanted to lead, obviously, but then I tried to back it down and take it easy because I knew Bryce was going to come back. I was just trying to save what I could. I just know those guys are really good on the long run here.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that tonight. But again, overall, we talk about the way that the point setup is for this series and this season, it being a accumulated championship, knowing that every race is important. How much does it mean when you're able to put together good finishes like the one you got here tonight?
Consistency is the key. If it wasn't for being wrecked on the last lap at Talladega, I think I'd be tied or ahead of Nathan. I don't know, but that's how it happens. That's what happens here in racing sometimes. But I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season. I got some really, really good tracks for me. Dover, I'm good. Texas is my home track. I'm always good there. Nashville Super Speedway is probably one of my top 2 tracks. So we're going to take this momentum and see if we can carry out to the rest of the season, see what we can do with these guys.
Sounds like a plan. Well, hey, James, before we let you head out here tonight to go celebrate the good finish, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, let me first of all thank my beautiful wife Courtney for supporting me and always watching the races and putting up with all my fun stuff. Kevin Kirscher, Blackstone Management, gotta thank Grindstone for joining us this season for the sponsor of the league. And we had Texar Federal Credit Union on my truck tonight, and I hope I did those guys proud. It's a locally owned credit union, and I'm glad to get a good top 3 finish for those guys.
Absolutely. And again, James, we appreciate you talking to us. Congrats on the 2nd place finish, and we will see you next week.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right. Now that's going to bring us up to your 3rd place finisher and the final man on the podium. That is none other than the 4 of Andrew Hale. Hey, Andrew, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, you take home a good 3rd place finish here tonight, man. You seem to have a thing for these tracks that are a mile and under. It seemed like you had great speed out there tonight. You make up 4 spots from where you started this race from. Tell us a little bit about your journey here into the podium tonight.
Yeah, I hate it for the guys on that first lap there. I feel like it should have been a caution, but at least I wasn't in it, I guess. Hate it for them guys, though. Yeah, it was no short run speed. I think maybe we were just down on air pressure a little too much, just no short run speed, but there on the long run, more than 20 laps, she come alive.
Yeah, she really did. You had great speed on the long run here tonight, and this is one of those tracks that caters to good setups when we see these long green flag runs. Next week, we head off to Dover. I want to ask you the same question I asked your race winner. That is, how do you feel about your chances there, maybe trying to grab your first win of the season in your case?
If I can make it next week, I feel like I got a good chance. Just pit strategy. Never good at that, but come down to get tires any chance you get, I feel like, at Dover. If you can diamond the corner, get the straightaway momentum, I feel like you can be fast. You just got to get it to turn center. I couldn't do that tonight on the short run, so maybe we'll go to work and get it better.
Sounds like a plan. Well, Andrew, we appreciate you talking to us. So before we let you head out here tonight, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Grindstone Development for helping James put this thing on. Team Watson Racing for the setups. They do a pretty good job. I tweak on them a little bit. I'm tweaked on it a little too much tonight, maybe. But next week should be fun.
Absolutely. And again, Andrew, we appreciate you talking to us. Congrats on that 3rd place finish, and we will see you next week.
All right, see you guys.
All right. Well, there you go. Andrew Hill, your 3rd place finisher. That will round out our coverage here tonight. What a great race and great win for Bryce Rayner. That now ties him with Nathan Meyer for most on the season at this point. That is 2 as it currently stands right now. We'll be back next week at Dover. Looking forward to that one. As for tonight, thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I hope you enjoyed. And until next time, that's it for me, Alistair Green, here on PGR eSports. Have a good night.